All right, I think you got to say Bruce Arena got it right. This is USfanTV live after the US-Mexico match at Estadio Azteca. USA won, Mexico won. That's a crucial road point for the US. We were very critical of Bruce Arena before the match about the lineup because it was bizarre and we'd never seen him pull anything like that before, but it worked. To his credit, it worked. Michael Bradley grabbed a spectacular, although a little fluky, but very spectacular goal in the first half, and that proved to be enough to earn the point. Carlos Vela broke us down and specifically broke down DeMarcus Beasley in the first half for his goal. What a throw from Ochoa to set that up. I mean, you got to take your hat off to Mexico there. It was a fantastic goal that they scored. Second half, as crazy as the first half was, the second half was a little more reserved. Obviously, we were content to play for the point. Brad Guzan was time wasting left and right, which you expect, I suppose. There wasn't the same intensity level of the second half. It seemed a little calmer. They got a little tense toward the end, especially with all those chances that Mexico is getting. For me, I know for Chris, we were texting about it before, and Chris is going to join us soon if he hasn't joined us already. He is here. Man of the match, Chris, is absolutely who?
Absolutely Jeff Cameron. Yeah. He was every bit as good as John Brooks was last summer against Paraguay. If he had gotten a goal, I think he would have become like US-Mexico living legend. He was everywhere. And I mean, some of the tackles he was making, if he timed those wrong, it's a red card or a penalty, and boom, he was getting it, and then he was getting up and like winning the ball too. I mean, he was incredibly impressive.
I wonder if he's finally good enough for Jurgen to consistently call him in.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a few people complain about like that tweet. Klinsmann would call him at times, but wasn't consistent with him in calling him up or in starting him. And that was for a long time. I was like, why isn't this guy playing for us? Because every time he plays well. Out there.
Also, I want to say, for me, again, people were dogging Michael Bradley tonight. He had a few passes that didn't connect, but he does try things at times that are a little bit more difficult than just playing a simple pass out of the back. But he had the spectacular goal. He nearly scored on that second goal. That's second rocket shot that he sent off. And he won quite a few balls in Mexico's attacking third that stopped an attack for them. I thought Michael Bradley was great tonight. Not perfect, but great. And people are going to hate him no matter what, I realize. And a part of that's because maybe he didn't live up to the what people thought he should be, but I thought he was great. Kellen Acosta, though, was great too, I thought. And
yeah.
We may be seeing Bradley phased out in favor of Acosta in that midfield general role.
I think we've pretty well seen the end of Jermaine Jones.
Yeah.
Thank God. we know I love it. It was funny until you said Jeff Cameron, because I wasn't on those texts back and forth about man of the match. My first thought was Michael Bradley, actually, just for exactly what you said. The way
if he'd hit that goal, I would have given it to him.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. A couple of his passes didn't go that way, but he seemed to have the right head timing on when to pressure, when to lay back. He did a lot of like little things, a lot like Jeff Cameron, where especially as the game went on, you could tell Mexico was getting frustrated. And that's when you guys said Cameron. I'm like, that's why they're taking shots from 30 yards out at the end, because they knew they weren't getting through Cameron, and he was in that. And my other thought for man of the match was Bruce Arena. There's a fine line between genius and insanity. You looked at Jurgen, you had insanity. Tonight you had genius. It worked. It worked.
It sure did.
And Chris and I were texting back and forth prior to the game, and I kept saying, they're saying this is 3 in the back. No, it's 5. It was realistically 5 in the back.
I agree.
That's how it was supposed to play. And then it played well.
And it did exactly the job. I do want to point out, I did call for a 1-1 draw.
There you go.
I think I said, I suspect, I said, I think I called for, I think I said, you can put me down for a win, but I said, I think a draw is more likely.
I would say draw. You know, and as bad as the refereeing was in the first half, and he was absolutely horseshit. And me as a referee to say that, that takes a lot.
You never criticize refs, TJ.
He was shit. Chris, I did finally see that shot on DMB early on. I was still bad.
Well, and to immediately, like, to me, that's one thing. Okay, fine. To me, it was that the first free kick from that, he then does the exact same thing, only even worse to Bobby Wood. And it's like, come on. It's one thing to do it. Okay, it's early in the match. I can forgive that you didn't give a card right there. But to immediately do the exact same thing,
no,
that should have been a straight red right there. It should have been boom. You know what? I let you go the first time. Now you're getting punished for both. You're out.
But anybody who criticized the one for DeAndre was it Yedlin who got the first one late in the first half?
Yeah.
Okay, that was a technical yellow card. If you want, he he had been told another foul, you're getting one. That was his fourth or fifth foul. That was a technical yellow. That was nothing more. He probably would have taken 5 more fouls to get a red for it. To be honest, because you have to do it.
Salcedo took 40 fouls and never got a single card.
Oh no, he should have. No,
I mean that was ridiculous. And that's my real issue is that I don't have a problem with either of the yellow cards that the U.S. got. It's that those were the only cards given.
Right.
Chicharito should have had one for diving.
Oh shit!
Salcedo should have had a red there in the 4th minute or whatever that was. There was, I don't know. There were a couple more that I'm forgetting now, and I didn't write down I didn't take notes in the second half as well as I did in the first, so I've forgotten who it was now. But
can I point this out because you guys will like this one? Right after Chicharito did that, Lizzie was watching. She saw it, ran up, fell over, and said, "I'm playing soccer." I'm not kidding. Did exactly what Chicharito did. She did the Chicharito dive.
So, you gave her a green jersey? Just kidding. Never give your child a green jersey. I was instructing my kids tonight that no, we hate the team in green. I never like the team in green. Ever.
I love these matches so much. And I know if we had lost, I would feel dejected. But I was just thinking to myself in the middle of this match, God, I wish we could do this more often for these kind of stakes. Yeah. It's just, I love these matches. I love them.
I love the anger that it elicits in me when we're cheated. I love that it gets the same response from them when we score or whatever. As I've said before, I want the flares, the batteries, the bags of piss and shit thrown at me. Go for it. Do it. I'll take getting hurt if it means that I was there for a win or whatever. It's something big. To me, it just makes it more fun.
Yeah,
I
did see that
Chicharito though.
Go ahead, Chris.
I tweeted something about how much he was diving or whatever, and some I take it from other tweets this person sent that they must be Mexican. We said something like, "Oh, he's so clinical. He's got at least 25 goals against the United States." I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" I was like, "He has 1 goal against the United States."
Yeah.
I couldn't tell from the rest of the tweets this person was sending if like it was real or if they were making a joke. I have no clue, but I was like, no, he's not clinical, especially against the U.S.
No, I get it. He was the one that Ochoa got the ball to set up Mexico's goal. But did he really exist beyond that? I don't remember him. I don't remember seeing.
You remember him for his dives and his limping around and crying to the referee.
Oh, and wincing 10 minutes after the foul just to try to reinforce the dive. Yeah, it's as George Costanza once said, it's not a lie if you believe it. I think Chicharito really believes he's hurt.
Mario, diving is part of the game, but refereeing and stopping diving is also part of the game.
It's what?
The problem with pushing people over. Rule, the referee is there to enforce the rules, and the referee doesn't enforce the rules against you guys. And that's not at Azteca. That's every time you guys play.
It's
and
cheating.
You guys still whine. You guys still whine.
You're cheaters and you're cheating.
I'll guarantee you're still whining about Robin.
Yeah, exactly.
World Cup.
It's up to the referee, and I will say this: if the ref is gonna allow it, Mexico is very smart to do it. Very smart. They should. It's up to the referee to enforce that stuff, and they don't, especially in CONCACAF. I'm really interested to see how the Premier League system's going to work out, where they're going to be fined after the fact, or there's going to be some sort of punishment after the fact. Because imagine if
Diego
Mexico
Costa might go to Arsenal.
Yeah, imagine if Mexico had to deal with refereeing decisions after the fact on diving. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
To me, you can do it, and if you want to do it and get away with it, fine. I take pride in the fact that my team doesn't do it. And we've had guys who
don't
have
care
done
one
it
way or the
before,
other.
but
Like, I'm not. To me, well, as a coach, I've taught my players to cheat plenty of times, and just do it in ways that they can get away with it. I don't have a problem with cheating. I believe that if you want to win, you should be taking every advantage you get. I have no problem with cheating. And in that regard, I have no problem with diving. My problem is it's the referee's job to enforce it. And when they don't, and when they then punish people on the other half, and when it's as one-sided as this is, it's ridiculous. And I'm sorry, Chicharito is not a very good diver. He's good at carrying it on. He'll keep pretending he's hurt 10 or 20 minutes later, but his dives are fairly obvious.
Who was the guy? I can't remember who it was on Mexico, but there actually was a very good dive, if you want to call it that, on when Bradley had his arms up toward the end of the second half. Who I can't remember which Mexican player did it, but he sold it to the point where I thought Bradley had a stupid foul until I saw the other angle. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
Chicharito doesn't even do it that well. No. But
that's why he has such a reputation for it, and that's why I have a problem with him doing it. Like, whatever. I mean, if you're trying to sell an actual foul, I don't have a problem with it. Of course, do it.
Christian brought up that Taylor Twellman's comment on Beasley was.
I just lost something.
Yeah, did Pat freeze?
I don't know.
Yeah, Pat's frozen on my
Pat, are you there? Something about Beasley. I don't know what I don't know what Beasley's comment was. Hopefully Pat will come back and that this doesn't kill our show.
He blew up the show.
But maybe.
So do we just keep talking as if he's here?
We could. I'm going to make a comment here. We may not be on the air.
I know Daniel Miller just put adios, Pat. I saw somebody put something in there about what Bruce thinks of Fabian Johnson as a defender when he had Zusi ready.
Yeah,
I don't think one is anything. I think he sees Fabian Johnson as more of an attacking threat, and even I think it was Stu Holden said that Fabian Johnson's not as good of a defender. That's why Beasley was out there tonight. But he's going to give you more of the attack.
Well, I mean, I would actually consider him. I don't know that I'd say Zusi is the answer as a defender when the guy's slow. Even if he's well positioned. Pat, are you there now?
I think I'm back. Yeah.
All right.
I just got a giant white screen and it said, "Oh snap!" I'm like, shit. This is about the biggest show we've ever done. That's not good timing.
No,
but Pat, come back.
But what I was saying was that Taylor Twellman said that it wasn't Beasley's fault on that goal, that he was trying to push Vela toward the center backs, and the center backs didn't come over and help. So,
it's Twellman?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, that is a fair point. That yes, when you're gonna take him towards other defenders, the idea is that they're supposed to cover. Having said that, it's still he got beat bad. I mean,
he did. Yeah,
He got beat, and it was Stu Holden. I thought Twellman's ESPN guy, isn't he?
I think Twellman said it on Twitter. But
okay, but Stu Holden said it in the broadcast too. And
did he?
Yeah, Stu did say it. Yeah, you're right.
100%.
I do remember hearing it. Yeah.
He's right. There should be defenders in the middle. Unfortunately, when your central defenders are your biggest guys, they're up to try and score on the corner. That's where that gap was. It was a bad bad circumstances that way. But yes, Beasley got beat. Yes, there should have been defenders, but the defender, that's part of getting beat on a counterattack. Shit happens sometimes, boys. That's really what you can break it down to. So moving on from that.
Ricardo's saying that Guzan had a clear penalty against Chicharito. I saw the contact. It was not a penalty. And he was not hurt.
No, and on top, I mean, I'm not really one to call many things penalties when a keeper's diving in to make a save. That is one where I think you kind of give the benefit of the doubt. It's sort of like when there's that free kick and the both players are pushing each other. Oh, it's foul on the offender. Defense wins the ball back. like every time the ball came into the box against Mexico. But yeah, no, it wasn't a foul. He wasn't actually hurt. That was all a dive. That was all fake.
Soccer Talk saying the Herrera free kick was scary. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That thing was a rocket and it was dipping. It was so close. We got so lucky that hit the crossbar.
Yeah, I mean, Guzan was totally beat on it. But having said that, even if he'd made the right, even if he'd covered it properly and dove correctly, he wasn't going to catch that. The ball was higher than he could have jumped and was coming down just under the bar. Had it, been 2 inches lower or something, that ball was borderline. I mean, I think they talked about it, like Messi's shot in the Copa America. There's some truth to that. I mean, that was kind of similar.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And that was a stroke of luck there, because if that goes, it's probably 2-1 and 2-1 again.
The only thing with Brad Guzan I'm wondering is why Mexico never tried to shoot 5-hole. Everything should have been right down the middle, right? I'm just going to point that out. But now here's the question I have. With Brad Guzan versus Tim Howard, does Brad Guzan organize the defense better? Is that why he might have been out there tonight?
I had that thought.
You had to have that tonight. And the other thought I had, Chris, you and I talked about this via text in the game, and I said it in the first half. Is it possible they were almost running two different camps, at least with the film study and that kind of thing?
It had to be. With
one team literally getting ready for Trinidad and Tobago and the other getting ready for Mexico, and then the other guys, and then a group that was going to be crossing over. Because the way they were organized, to me, it was as if they had been studying, they had been practicing, they had every scenario lined up, ready, and I think that's why you saw the 7 subs, and especially the 7 you did, knowing that was the game plan and how they were going to play it out tonight. Absorb some pressure.
And it was guys with Liga MX experience who have played in that stadium quite a bit. Whether it's Omar and Areola, even DeMarcus, played in Liga MX for a long time. So it definitely seemed like the one thing I said in the pre-match show was, this may look crazy, but at least I know with Bruce, there's some thought behind it. It's not a last minute, I'm going to make guys uncomfortable because that's better for their long-term development, Klinsmann type thing. I knew that he at least had a thought behind it, even if it was going to fail, and clearly he did. You're exactly right, TJ. I think there were basically 2 camps running alongside each other, because this seemed very well prepared.
Wait, a U.S. team prepared? When's the last time we saw that? Oh, wait, Bob Bradley, Bruce Arena. Okay.
Joshua has a comment about Chicharito finishing when he was offsides there and not pressured. So does Wando Chicharito, or does Chicharito Wando that shot?
Fuck Wando.
Fuck Chicharito. Fuck them both.
Hey, why wasn't Guardado out there for Mexico today? Is he hurt? I knew Leon is hurt.
Something like that. I think that's right. I don't remember the details. I remember looking at it. I knew he wasn't going to play, but I can't.
They're a lot more. Mexico is a lot more unpredictable and creative with him on the field, I think, because tonight, especially toward the second half, everything went right side, switch field over to the left side, and then try to reset. Like every single time they got the ball in their third, they were trying that. And I'm like, there's nobody with creativity out here tonight.
Yeah, he may. I mean, I don't necessarily like to say it, but I can't kind of fault that guy. He may be the best player in CONCACAF right now.
Guardado,
he's extremely good. Yeah.
Guardado was not even
at least maybe more talented or something. Even if he's not, I think he's perhaps the most complete player in CONCACAF right now. He's one of the guys that, frankly, I can't fault really. I can't go like, I don't like him, but I can't be like, no, he sucks. Like, no, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
No, Mario says he was. Oh, you're talking about Gio? Yeah, another guy. I think they could have used Gio tonight for some creativity as well. But
Dominic says they went to Russia already.
Gio was on the bench tonight. I'm reading through an article from yesterday. Marquez, Guardado, and who's the third? Trying to see who else is. Miguel Leon. None of them.
Interesting.
They are all out due to injury, but all 3 are expected to play in the Confederations Cup. So obviously this game didn't matter to Osorio either in that sense. If he's going to keep those 3 out,
I mean,
he didn't need the points.
Well, I think I think it was that they didn't need the points because realistically, they've all but assured they're finishing first in the group. I mean, maybe even if things basically collapse, I don't think they're going to finish farther than second.
It seems like that seems odd to me, though. I mean, it's still they're all but qualified at this point. I get that, but you're still playing a home game against your biggest rival, and it's not like I know you try to win every trophy you can, but they're not going to win the Confederations Cup.
Well,
so,
but as I said on Tuesday, I said it on Tuesday.
Chile's there, so
I was just going to say.
I said it on Tuesday and I said it on Thursday. This game is huge for fans. But the coaches, and especially Osorio and Bruce Arena, who are both pretty smart guys, they see the bigger picture.
They're both
usually
pragmatists, yeah.
They don't give a shit who they're going to get their point. They know where they're going to get their points and how they're going to do it. They're not going to reach for a point or put something out there when they see something bigger. And I think that was what Osorio did tonight with not having, because when I didn't see Marquez, I'm like, where the fuck's Marquez? I was surprised because I was waiting for his shot on Pulisic, which I expect in the first 90 seconds. And that never happened, of course.
It was just Salcedo and on everyone else. Salcedo's the young Marquez now, apparently.
Hey, Dominic, you're saying Germany isn't going to send an A team to the Confederations Cup.
That's true.
No, they're probably
not.
aren't.
Yeah, they're sending a very young team.
But their B team's pretty fucking good.
yeah. They're no fluke right now. I mean, this was not. You could see that team coming, and the problem is they got a bunch of young guys who haven't really played for him yet, like Julian Draxler and shit. Who, I mean, yeah, he's been there, but like he's still up and coming. They could. I don't know who I'm picking for next year's World Cup yet, but they're going to be a strong choice.
Yeah. I think Chile wins that Confederations Cup. Hopefully Alexis Sanchez is still an Arsenal player when they do it.
He won't be the day after, though, probably.
Yeah, I don't worry about Costa Rica is a very good team, but I don't worry about them at home, playing them in the United States. I think the next 4 are very, very winnable, all of them for us, and we're in very good position now. Did we do this with Jurgen? I think the previous results would have been all the same. I don't know that Jurgen gets the point here, but he did last time. So Jurgen may have done exactly the same thing that Bruce did points-wise in these last few games. I wonder if we have any El Tree fans still listening, where do you stand on Osorio after this? Because I saw some people on Twitter calling for his head, and I wouldn't do that if I were Mexico. But Mexico fires coaches, for absolutely no reason.
For breathing?
For any reason. So interested to see what the Mexican papers are going to say about that. But I actually thought, when did Nagby come on? About the 65th minute? Is that right? I don't have it in front of me. But
between 60 and 65, if I recall correctly. You're in the right range with that.
That sub, I thought, hey, maybe Bruce is going for it. And then Josie for Wood, I would have preferred Deuce. And a lot of people were wondering if there's some sort of rift between Arena and Deuce. I don't think so. I just don't think that there was room.
I wasn't a fan of the Josie sub for the simple fact of when we saw it in about the 85th or so minute. No, it might have been even later. It might have been around 90 when they tried clearing it to Josie. Josie's first touch turned it right back into a counterattack for Mexico, and that was all I needed to see him out of Josie to go, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, I would have gone Dempsey. But that's just me, I guess. And then the Zusi sub
late in the game, I don't get why you don't go Dempsey, because it's not like we were really holding the ball anywhere on the field to give a reason for Josie to be out there. And as you kind of saw, he got punished simply for being bigger than the defenders who were covering.
Yeah. I mean, that foul on Josie was totally because he's big.
Yeah.
And sometimes refs are swayed by that sort of thing. So
sometimes.
And this ref was a wuss. Let's just call it for what it was. He absolutely was a puss.
No
guts. That was absolutely horseshit. That was a piss poor call.
Even if it's not a conspiracy, TJ, you made a good point the other night when I was in Denver, that they're just shit refs. It's not always a vast conspiracy against the U.S. Sometimes they're just shit refs. And because the U.S. refs and the Mexican refs are taken out of the equation, refs that have better experience in bigger games, we get, some Central American reffing crew, and they're just shit. It would be nice to have, Japanese refs or German refs or English refs or somebody come in from the outside and ref these games and see how they look, because these CONCACAF shit shows are fun to watch and they're crazy, but somebody's going to get a career-ending injury out there because the refs can't keep these things under control.
Well, and if you've watched enough in CONCACAF, and I know you guys have, if you've watched enough qualifiers, but especially when you start looking at like the CONCACAF Champions League and things like that, you don't get the A crews. You start getting the B and C crews. And again, when it's the U.S. and you start getting these referees from Trinidad and from Honduras and Guatemala that are absolutely just horrible, have no business. They would probably be they'd probably be an 8 like I am on the U.S. level because they're terrible. But they're the best that these countries have. No, I'm almost starting to. You bring up a good point when it comes to referees. When you start seeing qualifiers like this, like the U.S. and Mexico, like France and Germany, you almost need to get it out of the Confederation and bring in a referee from somewhere else. Bring in an English set of referees, German set of referees who really have no interest in the game. And when you get to those games, you again, same thing. Find them from somewhere else completely and let them have those games, because I think it would make it a better game overall. So,
yeah, but since when is CONCACAF actually worried about having the best game? They're worried about who can. They're just worried about where the money's coming from.
They're saying Mike Woodward saying Aguiar is the best, has done the last 3 U.S. Mexico matches. Yeah, and to say he's been good might be generous.
We haven't lost those last 3 though. There is that, but yeah, they haven't been. They haven't been what? Well, I should say we haven't lost the last 3 at Azteca. But yeah, they haven't been well officiated.
I remember this coming up at halftime, and we didn't have time to address it, but somebody asked, one of you guys asked if Tim Howard would have saved the Carlos Vela shot that Brad Guzan didn't quite get to. I don't know.
No.
I mean, Tim's a better shot stopper, so maybe Tim makes a mistake that Guzan doesn't make. I mean, it's just hard to argue with getting the point at Azteca.
It was a good shot.
A very good shot, yeah.
The whole reason Guzan couldn't get to it was he was starting to move to his right and then had to dive back to his left, and so had no push off to really get there. And I mean, it looks like he didn't really attempt to save. I think he kind of went towards it. But I think it's right. He didn't exactly, because he knew it was beat. But
and,
would Howard have saved that? That's hard for me to say, because it's not like Guzan was beaten because he was out of position or something. He was moving, following the play, and then the ball went back against the grain to his movement, and he just couldn't follow it.
Right, and no, you've got it, Chris. He was going the wrong way. He's wrong-footed, doing what he should be doing. However, that happens sometimes. No, I don't think Tim Howard gets there either. And even if Timmy does get that, I tend to think you're right. Where's the one he's going to miss that Guzan's positioning was absolutely spot on for tonight? And that was kind of the argument you guys. I think Chris, you and I had via text was. Are you going for somebody who's going to always be in the right position, or the shot stopper tonight, where Arena went for the one who's going to be in position, going to make sure everything's in the right position? And thankfully, Mexico never figured out just shoot it between his legs.
Yeah, I've noticed. Mike says that too. Yeah, my feeling was, and maybe said this earlier. I don't remember. With kind of an experimental lineup, I would have gone with the shot stopper because I'd rather have the reaction guy because I don't know what you're going to get. Now, as it turned out, the defense was pretty good, so it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I think it's tough to say that DeAndre Yedlin isn't a good defender after seeing him play tonight too. So he wasn't to Jeff Cameron's level, but no one was. But I thought DeAndre had a good defensive night as well.
Mike has a good point that a point is good, but the game was there for the taking.
It was
more proactive subs could have settled things. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean,
go ahead, Chris. Finish your thought, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
You can disagree, but I do think that perhaps the better sub choices could have changed things. Now the problem becomes there weren't that many guys, I'm guessing, available since guys like Fabian Johnson didn't even make the field. And granted, he hasn't been maybe the player he was a year or two ago for us lately, but he's still one of our. He's still in the top 2, 3, 4 players we have. So to see him not make the field, I don't know. I was surprised that I actually liked most of what Areola did tonight, but I was kind of surprised that he was out there. I guess this means the end of Bedoya. So if there are some perhaps positives to take from this, thank you to Jermaine Jones and Alejandro Bedoya, but I think your national team careers may have come to an end.
Yeah, it looks like it. But when you think guys are done, sometimes they just keep coming back over and over and over again, like old man Beasley. So,
but old man Beasley never did anything to piss everybody off.
No, true.
He's always been the same play. I mean, he might get slower, but him slower is still pretty damn fast, number one. Number two, what he lacks in speed now he makes up because instead of being rocket fast and catching up where he screws up, he now is fast enough and he's still now he's in the right position most of the time. So, no, Chris, you were talking about proactive subs. I got to tell you why you're wrong because you're wrong, and that's nothing unusual there. If you start going proactive subs, start chasing the game and chasing the win and getting away from what has gotten you that far, you're leaving yourself open and putting yourself in positions you don't need to be in. You could tell, that's why I really think there were almost two sets of team meetings going on at the same time, studying video, so on and so forth, to keep that shape, to keep it the way it was the entire time. There's no way you start putting in pieces that aren't used to that spot unless you're chasing the game. You're leaving yourself open for another one. And ask what was it, Honduras, how that works out when you start leaving yourself wide open to
they got smoked for that. No, to me, the big one that I don't agree with Josie over Deuce, and you can make the argument that Deuce isn't a hold-up player anyway, but we weren't holding the ball. So to me, attempting it, I don't know was necessary.
Well, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. I wasn't real thrilled with that one either. For number one, Josie's first touch is absolutely horseshit most of the time. Number two, I agree. You weren't playing hold up play. You were playing dump it and run. And I think Deuce almost would have been a better fit for that strategy. The only reason why I think Josie might have been the sub is get the game out at 1-1 and trying to use Josie as a hold up, stall, so on and so forth. Get him on the ball. You can't get it off of him kind of thing instead of really chasing a win at that point. And for those who are actually give a shit, and probably most of you don't, Pittsburgh did win the Stanley Cup tonight.
I forgot it was even happening.
I hate the Penguins. With my history with the Blues, I didn't necessarily want to see Nashville win either because I feel like you got to suffer a little bit. You guys can't just kind of immediately jump to winning a Stanley Cup. So I did. I've been mostly ignoring it all.
Leipzig says Arena is racist. And most of you guys who don't normally watch the show are like, this guy is insane. But then the few of you guys who are here all the time get Leipzig.
Leipzig is one of us. He truly is at this point in time.
Why do you think Arena hates the German Americans? I don't think he does. I mean, he's used. Well, he pretty much has stated he loves Jermaine Jones.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's just kind of finally found someone who can replace him, because at the end of the day, for as hard as Jermaine may work, and Bruce is clearly impressed by that, he's just getting too old. I mean, beyond the reasons that, if you can just kind of discount the reasons that we would not want Jermaine out there, or prefer him to not be out there, he's just getting too old. You've got to replace him, because
yes.
He's
at
here.
This point,
I can see where he's still playing in a year, but he's not playing in 5 years.
No, it's and Kellen Acosta proved that he can do it,
Yeah.
and do it well. So
that's what she said.
Also, I'm not sure, Dominic. I'm not sure that Brooks was left out for any reason other than, to me, he looked hurt the other day. He came off for an injury against Venezuela. He came off early the other day, and it looked to me like he was pulling up. He wasn't jumping as hard. He wasn't running as hard. He didn't seem to really be putting a lot of pressure into his body in the TNT game. My guess is that hamstring was still hurt. So I'm not sure that he was on the bench because he wasn't wanted. I think it was more about his health.
And you have Omar sitting there, who's a very good defender.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a giant drop off. So,
I'd like to see Omar get a little more practice on heading the ball, though.
Oh God, yeah, because we would have had at least one more goal if Omar could just put a header
in the right
on
spot.
frame.
Yeah.
Jesus, he had 3 or 4 off corners, and not one actually made it to the goal.
And when you see him, he is our, as you've pointed out before on the show, Chris, he is our tallest player in history, and he can jump like a motherfucker too. When you see him get that high, like nobody's touching him that high. If he could just get it in the right spot, my God, he was, other than the issues heading the ball, I thought Omar was good tonight too. So
yeah. Christian has asked us to rate the defense in the midfield. 1 to 10. You mean give them all 1 to 10 scores, or rank the players out there 1 to 10? Bradley and Acosta both, I would give probably a 7 to. Maybe I'd give a little bit more to Bradley because he did score and almost had the game winner.
I would give Acosta an 8 more than even a 7, because, and Bradley, I give them both 8s. Bradley for exactly what you said, but Acosta, this is the game where you could really succumb to the pressure. He didn't. He stayed into it, and he provided a whole lot, including a stability to Bradley that we haven't seen really since I want to say Beckerman.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before Beckerman decided to smoke a shit ton of weed.
I was really impressed by Acosta. Not just, he played well enough to impress. That was awesome. But even back in March when he came in, you could tell he had nerves going and stuff. This is the biggest game probably of his career. I think you have to say, to date, this is the biggest game he's ever played in, and he looked every bit a veteran out there.
Yeah, I think if you play in this
everything
game,
he was supposed to, he was where he was supposed to. Apart from, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 free kicks that weren't great, he had good tackles. He had good pressure. He and Bradley weren't as strong. The reason I only went to 7 was the second half. They weren't nearly as impressive. But the first 20 to 25 minutes, we were controlling the midfield, and it's pretty much down to the 2 of them. And after that, as Mexico started pushing the ball more wide and things to avoid them, was when we started losing some of that control, and that's when we started defending too deeply, which then led to Mexico's overwhelming possession in the second half. But
let me ask this. Let me throw this to you, because this kind of crossed my mind. Is because it seemed I remember Stu Holden saying late in the first half that it seemed like Mexico had figured that Osorio had figured out Arena's tactics from the first half, and that's why Mexico started coming on late in the first half, which you could make that argument. However, I wonder if that was Arena's counter was, hey, we're going to do some high pressure early, see if we can catch them. He did. Control the game, and then once Mexico started really breaking that down a little bit, all right, let's go back and let's absorb some pressure and let them come at us a little bit more and see if we can frustrate them into doing something stupid. And Bradley almost had his chance. Pulisic had that chance late in the game. See if they can pressure him and do something stupid. So let's lay back a little bit. So they weren't asked to really boss the midfield anymore. They were told to let them come at you a little bit more and to start defending a little bit.
My God, if Pulisic hits that shot, and I got to say, positive he was going to score when he got the ball and flicked it with his right foot into space. If he hit that, we'd be building statues of that guy right now, because he didn't have he didn't have a terrible game or anything, but he didn't get a lot of opportunities. And I think that I said at halftime, credit to Mexico, because they did a good job starving him of the ball. Obviously they knew he could hurt them, and they did a very good job defending him. When he did get the ball, he almost scored. We've seen him score that almost exact goal, both for the US and for Dortmund. So I stood up when he got the ball and hit it into space. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. And then it was kind of a weaker shot that he pushed wide, but oh my God, if he had hit that.
It seemed like in the first half he at least early on, especially like you said, when Acosta and Bradley were kind of controlling the midfield, he had some opportunities out wide with the ball to do some things with it, and he did okay with them. He was getting the ball into the middle, and Wood really wasn't there. Bobby Wood wasn't getting on the end of it, and that happens. Again, the second half, I want to say his role had changed a bit. I really, but yeah, credit to Mexico for figuring out, hey, let's just beat the hell out of the little guy and see if they, make somebody else beat him. And I don't think Bruce cared if anybody else did at that point. As long as they didn't lose the game, Bruce, I think, was going to walk away happy.
Yeah, I mean, at this rate, we've now. I haven't seen. Has Panama already? I could check it out. What Panama did today.
They don't play. They play Tuesday. They play Tuesday.
They play Tuesday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, their game could still affect us, but we've pretty well, I think, locked ourselves in now into the top three going forward. I mean, it's really now our fate is back in our own hands. So that's nice.
I'm looking at
back to our.
I'm looking at the schedule.
Scores. I'd give Cameron a 9. I would give Cameron a 9, and Omar, I'd give a 6.5, maybe.
Yeah.
2. He played well. The big thing to me was, all of his missed headers. Because otherwise, he would be right up there, just a little bit behind Cameron, right up there with like Bradley and Acosta. On the outside, Ream was serviceable. I mean, he had an overall decent game. It wasn't really good, wasn't really bad.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And sometimes in soccer, sometimes fine is fine. It doesn't, not everybody needs to be great. That's kind of the way the game works. So
I guess I would be a little higher up on Gonzalez and Ream. I'd probably give them both at least 7s, maybe 8s.
Defensively, Omar was very good.
I was just putting them behind Bradley and Acosta. So if I was only giving them 7s, then I would give him. So if I move them up to 8s, then I'd give.
I guess I would almost drop
Omar's.
Cameron to an 8, because now I'm thinking back to the goal that Mexico did get. The one that should have been closing down on him, that was kind of watching, was Cameron.
My feelings split.
Omar been there?
It was from the left, so it should have been. But I think if I remember how the play goes, it was probably Cameron who was closest. But
I'd have to see it again.
I'm having to think of it in replay as I replay the replay in my head. Wanda would have scored 10 goals. Hunter, Leipzig's already here. You can't start that.
That's it. I think Dan said a minute ago that Miguel Herrera was loving Michael Bradley in the booth, and he brought up the idea that what if Club America bought him? I would love that. I would love to see Michael Bradley go play in a tougher league. It's
well,
I feel like,
and to go fight Chivas regularly. Like that was why I used to want Donovan to do it, was to go play in that stadium, and so that when we do play Mexico, some of those fans have to kind of like grudgingly like him, you know,
like we did with Blanco. We eventually
exactly.
Like, all right, he's great.
I can't hate the guy anymore. He does seem kind of fun, and yeah.
But yeah, I think that, and everybody sees it, that Bradley's regressed since coming back to MLS, and he isn't as good of a player as he was when he was at Roma. And it would be cool to see him, because he's got some time left. He's not old yet, to see him jump to a tougher league and see what that does for his career. But I think, he's not going to make the kind of money that he's
too
making.
Expensive.
He's making a ton of money, $6.5 million playing for Toronto. That's
like
US.
That, yeah.
Doesn't have to take a Canadian hit. And he's in a fantastic city for a family. I don't think that he wants to move his family to Mexico City when he lives in Toronto. So I don't see it happening, but it would be fun. It's fun to think about. Let's see what else, guys.
To me, it would certainly, benefit him and us for him to go play somewhere with more of a challenge. But I just, even if you overlook, why he might not want to move, you get into the fact that I think he costs too much money.
Right.
Toronto's not going to MLS isn't going to let him go for cheap because they've got too much invested in him, and I don't think anyone else values him to the same level right now. Well,
and I'm reading Dominic saying that Michael Bradley needs to go to a league where he can work on dribbling. Every time we play against him, smart team, they press him hard. Part of the reason why they pressed him, I think part of the reason why they pressed him hard, though, is because with Jermaine Jones, Bradley never knew where the fuck he was going to be.
Exactly.
And
Bradley
he would
didn't
panic.
have an outlet, a consistent outlet.
And I think I think with Acosta, you saw that tonight, and I think that will only get better. Like I said, this is the most comfortable I've seen Michael Bradley look and feel since he had Kyle Beckerman, before Kyle Beckerman smoked a shit ton of weed and whatever happened, or Kyle Beckerman got old, for really lack of a better term.
I don't think the weed ever really hurt Kyle Beckerman. I think it just made him a little more chill and relaxed,
Like I said, until Kyle Beckerman really
helped his hair grow. Yeah, I mean, the big thing was that guy aged like 5 years in about 12 months.
Yeah. How has he not ended up on the Rapids, where it's just all right there for him? Salt Lake doesn't view it the same. All those Mormons in Salt Lake don't view the weed the same way that the folks in Denver do. So it seems like Beckerman would be a perfect fit for the Rapids. Didn't he play for the Rapids early in his career?
Yeah, he started his career for 5 years. He was with them.
I was going to say he should go back there now.
He belongs there. Yeah, it would be.
I just realized that.
Part of me with Bradley wonders, as people are still talking about how he used to dribble around people and stuff. Part of me wonders a little bit if it's not something like Beckham. Like after Beckham broke his foot, he was kind of never the same player again. There was that foot surgery before the last World Cup that Bradley didn't seem to be the same player afterwards. Part of me wonders if there was more to that than maybe we've ever known.
Is that a mental thing, do you think? Like I can't rely on this like I used to? Or is it just physically the foot doesn't work the same way? I wonder.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's around when we saw the drop. And he was playing hurt a lot. Remember, it came out after the fact that he had been playing with the foot problem for quite a while. And playing on an injury can make things worse in the long term too. So, but he was good tonight. And again, not from a passing standpoint, I have to see his passing numbers. He wasn't flawless, and he does try to force things which can hurt his passing stats. Sometimes he succeeds with those. But I thought from a defensive standpoint, when he was in the box, go back and watch how many times he read something and stepped in front of it and picked it off before and killed a Mexican chance. And the steal and shot was, ridiculous. That's going to go down in history as one of the best goals we've ever scored. It's up there. Certainly it's not near the very top, but it's definitely up there. So it's a memorable one for sure. Ricardo says, don't say Chile. Sorry. Chile's a very good team.
That one made me laugh. Maybe who's just an ass? I don't know who Mario's talking about at this point.
Probably me.
Hearing Osorio on the Men in Blazers podcast talk about the Chile loss was very interesting because he says it changed him as a coach and as a man. It like woke him up and made him realize that he didn't think that Mexico could be beaten like that. So and they wilted, obviously. So Gabe says Bradley led the lot today. I thought he was fantastic. I think the only guy who had a better game than Bradley is Jeff Cameron.
I would say perhaps Bruce Arena.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Bruce, again, we were kind of shitting on him when this lineup came out, and we couldn't.
His gambles paid off today.
The roster came out. We couldn't figure out how it fit into a lineup. And I said at the time in the pregame show, I hoped that we'd be coming back here tonight and saying Bruce is a genius. And you know what? Got to hand it to you, Bruce. You nailed it tonight. So.
Christian Ibarra says Michael Bradley looks like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers.
He does, kind of. You know, I say that as a bald guy with a giant head. Really, you know what? The other night in Denver, when I was at the bar, Bradley and Guzan were there speaking, and I was there, obviously, with my giant bald head, and Grant Wall was also there. I saw him over at the bar talking to Alexi Lalas.
Such a collection of balds.
There was a lot of giant bald white guys in there, giant bald white heads in there, and it would have been a great photo to get them all together. They would have looked at me like I was an idiot trying to do it, but there was a lot of balds in one spot.
USfanTV cornering the market on the balds.
And again, I will get back to the game in a minute, but it was ridiculous how few people were there. There were maybe like 50 people there, and like Alexi's at the bar.
I was surprised it was so.
Alexi's at the bar with Dr. Joe from Fox, the ref. Grant Wall came over and talked to them. Rob Stone was there with Guzan and Bradley, and there were maybe 50 of us, like enough that everybody met everybody after the game. It was fantastic from my point of view, but I was kind of sorry that there were so few people there. What else do you guys have for us tonight? Resetting. For those of you who are just tuning in, obviously you're aware the U.S. and Mexico played to a 1-1 draw at Estadio Azteca tonight in a World Cup qualifier. A fantastic result for the U.S., but the win was kind of there for the taking, and we didn't go get it. So I'm satisfied but not thrilled, I think I would say.
Well, and because my job here is to disagree with everything you guys say, was it really there for the taking? If you guys, like I said, if the second half, as boring as hell as it may have been, that I think was exactly what Bruce was looking for. If you start chasing the game, do you leave yourself open for a counter?
Chase it too aggressively, maybe. But what if Pulisic's shot goes in? What if Michael Bradley's second screamer goes in? You know,
well, then I think you get 3 and 4 right after it.
What if any of Omar's headers go in?
Omar's headers.
Yeah, it was there for the taking. But I suppose you could say the same thing for Mexico had some chances that didn't fall. What if Chicharito had actually drawn a penalty? So,
what if Guardado had played instead of deciding to head to Russia early?
Go check out the vodka scene. I wonder if Putin's going to build a wall. Since he and Trump are buddies, if Putin's going to build a wall to keep the Mexicans out. Or if, but in all seriousness, I wonder if there's going to be some Russian foul play or something. So I hope not, because we may be rivals, Mexico, but I will stand with you every day of the week against those Russian assholes. So what else do you guys have? Who will impress in the Gold Cup? I think Dom Dwyer, the phenomenal Poon Slayer, says, I sure hope. I fully expect to see him there.
To that one. Yeah, we're all, I think, looking forward to seeing, what he can do kind of at the international level, and yeah, give him a chance.
Ricardo says
Will
something.
Trapp, I'm interested as well. I kind of wish that some of the like U20 guys had gotten a call up, maybe even at like Trapp's expense, but I don't know. We'll see.
Ricardo says something we've talked about many times. The fact that CONCACAF is shit drags down both of these teams. Yes.
Yeah.
That is why.
Yeah, that's why we need to play in the Copa America. Or
if the Copa America thing comes true, and we can play consistently against better teams, it will benefit both of us, because neither one of us are anywhere near winning a World Cup, or anywhere near any of the world soccer powerhouses. We're very close to each other, both geographically and in a soccer ability, and that is what makes the rivalry fun. But yeah, grand scheme of things, we're not good enough, and we should be better. We could be better. We both could be better. So let's see what else, guys.
Gabe, you're right. Our kind of end product on the wings was lackluster. We had a lot of the same problem we had the other night, which was our crosses, our service from wide was not wasn't that good. Areola definitely worked hard, but yeah, you could say kind of the same thing there, that his crosses, his ability to get the ball into the middle wasn't necessarily helping things either. Nagby, I'm trying to think, did he have any crosses? It was nice to see him taking on some guys, dribbling around some people. One of the things I do like is pretty much anytime he beats someone, he cuts across them so that they have to foul him or
that is true.
Try to get around him. I'm guessing the reason he didn't start earlier was that you never really know what you're going to see from him kind of defensively. I mean, he did surprise some of us recently and played some defense, but he's just not, I think, consistently, if you're going to consider him, he's just not defense isn't one of his strengths, and I'm guessing because of the situation, Bruce didn't go for him for that reason. Although Areola being so tiny, I mean, how much is he really looked to for defense either? But
Dan brings up the altitude, and I've said this before. I said this on the website. The altitude is a factor for individual players, but I don't think it's a home field advantage for Mexico, because they have a ton of players playing in Europe who aren't used to playing at altitude too. And we have Omar Gonzalez and Paul Areola and guys who do play at altitude quite a bit. So, and guys who play in Colorado. So I know Colorado is still quite a ways underneath Mexico City as far as altitude, but it's not like they all play for Club America, and they play there every single week. It's a lot of guys, and guys deal with it differently. So I think it affects individual players, but I don't think it's a home field advantage, that aspect of it anymore. Speaking of home field advantage, I don't remember seeing a laser pointer, a bag of piss, or a battery thrown at all tonight.
The fans, the US fans did say that there was no beer or water being sold in their section, though.
And they had their scarves and flags taken away.
Yeah.
Part of the joy of going to that stadium for me would be the giant cups of really cheap beer. So that's sad that they didn't get beer sold in their section.
Snore. You can say it's a huge factor, but actually Mexico didn't have, I mean, they played the other day at home. What was that, Friday night? Thursday night?
They were the late game Thursday.
The last few days have kind of run together for me, but they've been at home. But realistically, they haven't been necessarily training in the altitude for much longer than we have. And our guys were all sleeping in those special tents
chambers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
some of the comments are talking about joining Cannonball and doing that. There's a simple reason why the United States and Mexico won't do anything like that. It makes zero sense for them to do that. They're guaranteed spots in the World Cup, and that's where the money's at. They play. I get it. They would have a few. They would have a few more draws and qualifiers. However, they get to go to the big show every time, and that's where the real money is going to be made. And there's no chance of that ever happening. No,
I'm not behind this.
I'd like to see them in Copa instead of doing this bullshit Gold Cup every 2 years. Maybe do it every 4 years or do it in off years. And when there's Copa, we go to Copa every damn time and throw an A squad out there.
My feeling is you let them have their Copa America, you let us have our Gold Cup, and then in the intervening years. So instead of like every 2 years, like we do with the Gold Cup, you do the Gold Cup and Copa America on the same year, and then 2 years opposite or whatever, you're doing Super Copa America or whatever you want to call it, where it is then teams from both conferences. So they can still have their tournament. We can still have our tournament. And, if Confederations Cup ever exists again, these can still be qualifying events for it, but that there's some kind of super tournament between the conferences that allows everyone to play.
Well, but you know what? CONMEBOL has invited guests every time for Copa America. Why can't U.S. and Mexico just be permanent guests in that tournament? It doesn't have to be in the U.S. I mean, make them travel. That we can go into that another day. Hell, we've got some time to kill between now and the Gold Cup anyway.
There seems to be some Mexican fans who are overrating their team again, which is not surprising.
Imagine that.
You're not that far ahead of the U.S. And in fact, 10 years ago, you were behind the U.S. as far as talent goes. This current crop of Mexican players is a little bit technically better than the U.S. players at the moment. I think in 20 years, we're going to be blowing you out of the water because it's what we do. So, no, you're ahead at this point, but it's cyclical. You weren't ahead of us in 2006. Your guys were trudging around the field and playing chippy because that's all they could do. You had a few good guys. You had Blanco and Borgetti was okay. And obviously
Marquez could throw punches like anybody.
Marquez, but no, you're not that good. And we saw that. I mean,
Luis Hernandez was decent once upon a time. That was longer ago than 10 years ago, but
in Columbus, it came down to an unmarked player getting a header at the end of the game after a really bad technical setup at the start of the game from Klinsmann.
It was fucking Marquez. Fuck that. It wasn't the unmarked player. It was fucking Marquez. This is all kinds of bad still. Yes, I'm still pissed about it this many months later.
And no, you're not nearly. Mexico and England have this problem. And England, congrats to you. You actually won something today. You won the U20 World Cup. Mexico and England have this problem, though, where they believe that the team and the players are so much better than they really are.
Yeah, they worship their own players to such an extent that the players think they're gods.
Now, we have a problem where we overhype young kids. So I'll admit to that. But we overhype young kids. I don't think we are with Pulisic. I think he's living up to it, although today's game wasn't fantastic. But we do this all the time with young kids. And I'm not saying the show, I'm saying U.S. fans in general. But no, you're not that good. You're not Germany. You're not Argentina. You got your ass annihilated by Chile. You're not that good in the grand scheme of things, and you're not that much better than us. I do think you are, only slightly right now. But what about Pulisic in 4 years when he's playing for Real Madrid or something? Who's going to be better then? When Chicharito's in MLS playing for LA, the new team. So, no, not better.
Poonslayer had a question about MLS teams being invited to Copa Libertadores, and you know what? That would be an entire episode in and of itself when I go off on a rant about why that will never work and so on and so forth, why the U.S. will never win the CONCACAF Champions League. But Pat, in this case, is 100% spot on. Mexico thinks they're better than they really are, much like England. And until they figure out that they've still got work to do, they're never going to be that way. And this is why, the question came up about Osorio earlier. He should not be in jeopardy. He's getting a ton out of these players. there's no way his job, but these guys who run the federations, who have the money, think they're better than they really are, and that's why they fire coaches that they shouldn't, like Wet Herrera.
Yeah, I was going to say
he's a good coach, I think, by the way, but shit canned him after he punched that journalist. He's definitely the most entertaining coach we've seen in CONCACAF in a long time. I'll give him that. Pat had a Kanye moment. Was I really that upset? I don't know that I was that upset. Just gets under my skin.
You seemed a little upset, but
you were not Chris after the Mexico game upset. No, you weren't anywhere close to that.
Yeah, I do think, Jared, you're right. I think Osorio is a good coach. I think maybe he was out coached by Bruce tonight, but I don't think he's a bad coach. So, and what's funny about that is he coached here in Chicago, and I don't remember having an opinion on him one way or another. I thought he was fine. I think he's actually improved as a coach since then. So,
well, he's improved as a coach, and realistically, after he left, I forget, there was somebody in between, and then that went over to what's his? Oh shit! No, never mind. Okay, let me move on here. Let me come back to me. You guys go on. But actually, here's my thing. He did get out coached by Bruce tonight, but how many times has Bruce really been out coached? As a manager, how often you can sit there and go, Bruce is what cost us the game?
No, it
doesn't happen.
And Bruce isn't going to get you to the highest highs. You know, he's not that manager, and that's why Klinsmann was a good idea because at the time, because we were reaching for something greater. But Bruce isn't gonna. We're not gonna lose 4-0 to Costa Rica where our guys give up under Bruce. I just don't see that happening. Bruce is very consistent and very solid, and he's fine. And he proved that. I think Christian asked a while ago what the biggest takeaway from this match is, and it's for me that we can do two very different things in two matches that are, you know, only a few days apart and be successful in both. So there were issues with both, certainly. Neither one was perfect, but we did what we wanted to do. And that's kind of impressive because for the longest time, the U.S. just did one thing. We played hard and kicked the ball forward and tried to get guys on the end of it. And we can do more than that now. And that's pretty cool.
Luis, Mexican clubs can beat any MLS team because you have a shit ton more money invested in your teams than like when MLS can actually afford to, I don't know, have guys who aren't making league minimum to kind of fill out their rosters, then you'll see more challenging.
We're never gonna, unless it's a fluke, we're never gonna win CONCACAF Champions League because
no
Mexican teams are real teams with a real system where, you know, there's promotion and relegation, and you can pay the 25th man on the roster a decent salary. MLS guys, they're not making $12,000 anymore, but what's the minimum now? 48,000 or 60,000 or something? I mean, that's not, think of that in terms of being a professional athlete. And so you've got, you know, your Bradley's making $6.5 million. The drop down to the bottom of the roster is gigantic. And that's where, from a switching the roster out standpoint and from a depth standpoint, the Mexican teams are going to continue to kill MLS until that changes.
You guys are missing another huge factor. The money is
there's the time of year factor too. But I mean, part of it is
you're missing another part. It's Chris, you're closer. It's called the collective bargaining agreement. They can only come together so many weeks before they go to that next round. CONCACAF. That's the biggest underlying factor. They can't get together a month early because it violates the collective or 2 months early and start practicing and start getting ready, start doing friendlies, start doing this stuff because it violates the collective bargaining agreement. That is one, along with the money, which is the hard salary cap. I mean, theoretically say, hey, let's bring them in 2 months early and let's start paying them their salary, but that goes against the salary cap, so on and so forth. And the collective bargaining, they can only practice for so many hours. That's the biggest kill factor that nobody realizes, is that CBA prevents them from getting together early.
Well, I mean, that's the union's fault and the players' fault who are putting the people in charge of the union then. Just an example of a union holding back players from being as successful as they can be. So,
Not a union.
Okay.
All right, now we've got biggest takeaway from tonight. Yeah, I think Pat actually summed up mine pretty well in saying that 2 different games, 2 different strategies completely. Bruce put it together. Bruce pulled it off. Had somebody said we're going to get 4 points out of these 2 qualifiers, and I think Pat, both you and Chris said that was realistic. I didn't think it was. I thought 3 was going to be it out of these 2. To get that 4th point, it's a bonus point to me. That tells you the difference between Bruce and Jurgen is just to be that ready for both games and not have to be scrambling or anything else. None of the guys with the yellow cards picked up a second yellow card. So I don't think we've lost anybody for the next games, which I think are even more vital at this point because you need games against the easier teams. The hard part's done. Now let's finish it up and get to Russia.
We got to win the Costa Rica game at home, but otherwise, yeah, I think at this point you could look at it as all the games remaining are winnable.
The remaining 2 home games, the one is in Orlando for sure. Is the other one really going to be at Red Bull? Has that been confirmed yet?
I think that is correct. I'm trying to remember the schedule right now, but yes, that sounds correct.
All right, there you go. Maybe we'll have to make one of those trips. But Gold Cup's in a few weeks, and we will not be at the Ghana friendly, but we will be in Nashville. So if you're going to be in Nashville for the opening round of the Gold Cup, Chris and I are going to be there, and you should come find us, and we will maybe we'll put you on our show somehow. So we're still working out the logistics of how we're going to pull that off, but
we may be a little bit later than these because we may have to go back to where we're staying to be able to get on, get a reliable
because
connection.
As we found with me in Denver,
having seen Pat's problem, yeah.
The cell signal thing can be kind of hit and miss. So especially at a stadium. So I didn't appear until the second half of that show. I tried like 3 times and I think I was popping up for about 3 seconds, but I wasn't until the second half of the show the other night because you can't get a good cell signal out of a stadium. So we'll have to run back to where we're staying in Nashville probably, but luckily that's pretty close to the stadium and hopefully the internet's good. So, but that's a long way away. We don't need to talk about that now. There's going to be a lot of USfanTV stuff between now and then.
They actually have not announced officially that game, the Costa Rica game, will be at.
I didn't think so. It's the rumor.
No, it has not been. It's the only one that I'm looking at the entire Hex schedule. It's the only one that doesn't. It says TBD still. U.S. and Panama October 6th will be at Orlando City Stadium. However, the September 1st game with Costa Rica has not been announced yet.
Stunned that neither Seattle or Portland got a qualifier because I was positive that we were going to be making a trip to one of those 2 cities just from a fan standpoint. But as Chris always points out, it's an even longer flight for the European-based guys to come back, especially if you're going to do it in their season. So,
and September 1st, you're getting right on top of the NFL season. So that so Seattle is out of play Seattle's at that point.
Yeah. What's left, guys? Anything? Just if you're new, if you've never seen this before, we do these shows Tuesday night and Thursday night at around or a little after 9 p.m. Eastern. We do them all the time. And then when there's games, we do post-game and sometimes pre-game. And today we did halftime because it was a big game. But we do them a lot. And we talk about, guys as they're playing in Europe. And we talk about MLS and Liga MX and a whole bunch of things related to, the American soccer world and the players who play for the national team. So if you're new and you're just watching this show and for some reason you like it, Tuesday night, we're going to be back here. Thursday night, we're going to be back here and you can come and hang out with us and we'll talk about this. So we have tons of new viewers tonight. We thank you guys for hanging out. It's awesome to see you here. Wando to
Christian has asked when Jimmy Conrad will be on. Pat talked to him the other day, but he had forgotten who we were.
Yeah, so he was cool though. He played soccer tennis with my son, which was fun. But he was hustling. He was working for Coca-Cola. He was trying to get people to tweet photos with certain hashtags. I don't remember what hashtag he wanted me to use. I can't remember what it was. But he was very cool. So, and Yeah, that was the fan experience outside of Dick's Sporting Goods Park with, like, you know, the corporate sponsors that have little games where you can win prizes. It was bigger than I'd ever seen it before. There was lots of fun stuff. Jimmy was there yelling at people on a microphone, and there was, you know, a thing where you could score goals, and there was a robot keeper that stopped the shots, and Panini was handing out stickers and cards and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a good experience. And then on top of that, you've got like 30 soccer fields surrounding Dick's Sporting Goods Park where people were playing pickup games, and the Outlaws had a huge tailgate. I did not get one of the We Bring the Noise, We Bring the Ruckus shirts because they sold out, but they said they will print more and maybe sell them online. So maybe next time. But it was a fantastic experience in Denver. I loved it. And I hope to see more games there that aren't in the snow.
Indeed.
Bigger than Dos Acero what, Christian? I didn't see the first part. We have 70 watching right now. We do, 71. So you guys rock. Hasta luego, Ricardo. Buenas noches. Thank you for, muchas gracias for watching. Ricardo is our resident El Tri fan in Mexico. He's awesome. We like him.
Louise, we've not had any international players on, but
we're just kind of idiots.
Really doing this for like 6 months. Yeah. So
this show's about 6 months old, and for the first 3 or so months, it was pretty much just us. And then like Christian and Leipzig would show up. So it's grown quite a bit since then. But yeah, it's I can't even comprehend how much it's grown at this point. We've picked up tons of subscribers and tons of new viewers. So thanks guys for that. Have we hit the end of the road with this bad boy? I don't even know how long we've been going.
Yeah, I think so.
We're
at least an hour.
We're closing in on 80 minutes. Yeah, I think it's.
Woof. Yeah, if you guys want to bother soccer players to come on the show, feel free. Maybe Landon will come on and talk about the San Diego thing that's going on. And somebody a while ago had a question about, is the Qatar World Cup going to happen, considering all the political implications of what's going on there? That may be a good show topic coming up. So we'll get to that maybe in a future show. All right, guys. TJ, any final words?
Thanks for letting me on tonight, and I'm glad I'm kind of disappointed. I was almost looking forward to the inevitable Chris meltdown had they lost tonight. I didn't get to see that, but I'll take this. This is a much happier version of the show, so that's good. We'll take that as a win for the night.
Chris, final words?
No, thanks everybody. See you on Tuesday, and you're done.
All right, go USA. Congrats on the point. It was a big one.
Fuck Wando.
Yeah, fuck Wando. Fuck Snapchat.
We're done.
We're at USfanTV on all the social medias except Snapchat, because fuck Snapchat. And the website's usfantv.com. Adios. You're done.